Perpetual, occurring repeatedly, so frequent as to seem endless and uninterrupted. Dread, anticipate with great apprehension or fear. What's up, everybody? My name is Brad and welcome back to the channel. Today's Friday. Hope everyone had a great week. I myself am looking forward to the weekend. As always, I'm sure you all are as well. Today we're back at it with another book review, and I'm going to be discussing Perpetual Dread by Brian Bowyer. Now, this collection has the perfect title, in my opinion. I read off the definition for Perpetual and Dread at the beginning of the video. It's the perfect definition to describe what readers are getting themselves into when they dive into this collection of short stories from the dark, twisted, depraved mind of Brian Bowyer. Jokingly, he's a really nice guy. I talk to him on Twitter back and forth sometimes. He's always been a huge supporter of the channel. He's a genuinely nice guy. He just happens to write really dark, twisted, extreme stuff. But while reading these stories, there's this building sense, this continuous sense of unease throughout. You as the reader just knowing that nothing good is going to come from any of these stories. You know, you're just reading and you're just waiting for that next hammer fist, that next hammer blow of awfulness to come crashing down. He's sort of like a UFC fighter. You think it can't possibly get any more shocking, and bam, he hits you. It can't possibly get any more awful. Rains another one down. It can't possibly get any more extreme, and he's just pounding you over the head continuously over and over and over again. There are no happy endings here. None. Absolutely no happy endings to be found. There's barely even a glimmer of hope to be had throughout these stories. This book is about bad people, about worse people performing horribly heinous, unsavory deeds. Bowyer, he's sort of like that older sibling. You'd go to the swimming pool together, you're swimming around, and they sneak up behind you and they just dunk your head under the water, and they hold it there. And they hold it there maybe a bit too long, and you're just underneath the water, desperately struggling to catch your breath. That's sort of what it feels like to read this collection. The darkness and depravity captured within these stories is just, it's completely unrelenting. And just when you think it can't get any worse, Brian, he throws a wink at you, maybe a sly grin, maybe you hear a whisper in your head when his voice, "Oh, what sights I have to show you." And he twists that literary knife just a little bit deeper. Have I mentioned that these are some really dark and twisted tales yet? I think I probably have. If you can think of a trigger warning, this book probably has it, plus a few extras you didn't even know existed. Even though Perpetual Dread deals with a lot of heavy and sensitive subject matter, Bowyer does an excellent job of placing the reader in these dark, grim scenarios without being graphically gratuitous in the process. Brian is able to hint at these sexual abuses and other debaucheries without having to go into every single nitty-gritty, disturbing detail. And I think that really works in the book's favor. It allows the reader's imagination to sort of linger and fill in these horribly vile gaps all on its own. You know, he'll plant the seed of something is off between this father and daughter and the relationship. Something is not quite right there. And the reader's imagination will take that and let it fester and grow and to turn it into something dark and disturbing all on its own. And it'll make you feel slimy and gross just for reading it. He's able to convey these heinously awful acts and events without having to spell it all out for you. Now, saying all that, that does not mean by any means that Bowyer's writing is toned down and tame. It's exactly the opposite, in fact. The violence contained here within, it's swift, it's extreme, it's bloody, it's brutal. Anyone, and I mean yes, absolutely anyone or anything, is fair game to be shot, stabbed, decapitated, crucified. Yes, I say crucified, and more. Every story is bone-crunchingly brutal in its execution, pun intended. Bowyer's writing style is methodical. It's a stripped-down, bare-bones, cutthroat prose that's down and dirty, and it wastes no time on frills or filler. So I'm going to go over some of the stories here. I'm going to go over all the stories here. I think there's, I don't know, maybe 13, 12, something like that. Give you the title and sort of what I thought about each story. Give you a little description of each story and what you can expect going into Perpetual Dread. All right, so let's dive into these stories. I've got my laptop pulled up with all my notes for each story, so I'm going to be looking down here some. So first story is called Terminal. A mother of a family with a history of violence takes matters into her own hands when she has nothing left to lose. This story kicks off the collection with a bang. Story number 2, Death Valley. It's a cautionary tale of why you should never go hitchhiking and why you should never pick up a hitchhiker. Didn't your parents ever tell you not to talk to strangers, let alone let them ride in your car? Your parents know what they're talking about. When they say don't talk to strangers, listen to your parents. Story number 3, Body Snatcher. Someone or something seems to be digging up graves. This story was bleak, bloody, and brutal, and I dug it. No pun intended. I'm bad with the puns today. Sorry about that. Number 4, Family Chapel. This one might have been one of my favorite stories, but Jesus! Religious extremes in this one. Blood on a cross, sacrifice for the sins of another. This is a devastatingly desolate story. Absolutely brutal in this one. That one was called Family Chapel. I think we're on number 5, Bath Salt Zombie. You remember back in 2012, those headlines, those news headlines about the guy who ate the face off of another guy, off of a homeless man? Yeah, that, but somehow worse, Brian Bowyer style. Next story, Tattoo Magic. A little black magic in this one. Maybe, maybe not. We're not for sure. They say diamonds are forever. Well, tattoos can be forever as well. Next story, Gift and a Curse. To play off the title of the story, life can be both a gift and a curse. Monumentously joyous in one moment and heartbreakingly tragic in another. The shattered dreams of one becoming the endless possibilities of another. Next story, Like Father, Like Son. You've heard the saying, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. That can be said for this story as well. This one was a tad less dark compared to all the other ones. It's still dark, but not as much as the other ones, and there might be a hint of some bittersweetness here at the end for that story. Next story, Drago's Crib. Man's best friend and some Godfather-style revenge. If you've seen the Godfather movies, with a bed, something in the bed under the blankets, you might know what I'm hinting at with that one. Next story, Teacher's Pet. You tell your kids not to talk to strangers, like we've discussed, but do you also tell them not to listen to the voices in their heads? Do they talk to the voices in their heads? Because those are strangers as well, right? You know, for this one, there's comeuppance all around for everyone. Next story, Black Cat Bones. This story might be the weirdest, most bizarre story out there in this collection. From portals and talking heads to drugs and abuse. There's a bit of alluded to cosmic horror a little bit in this one. Eating rabbit meat while hiding out in a cabin in the woods. And is that meat really rabbit meat? I don't know. You'd have to read it for yourself and find out. Next story, Scorpio. A little gory creature feature in this one. An assassin, a mutant pimp, and a prostitute walk into a dusty roadside bar. I think there's a joke in there somewhere. That's what happens in this one. Next story, Spider Queen. A mob boss's journey back home to confront the ghost of her dead mother's past and maybe confront some of her own ghosts along the way. Next story, Night Parade. And this one gave me heavy Clive Barker vibes in this one. Night Parade. Going through the motions of life. No new beginnings. No new endings. Just rinse and repeat. Same thing over and over and over again. Sort of the moral of the story of this one. Take a chance. Do something different. Try something new before it's too late. And you get caught up into the parade towards oblivion. Next story. Countdown to Oblivion. Doomsday. It's the end of the world. What would you do if you knew that the world was coming to an end in just a few hours? What would you do? If you had anything you could do, just a few hours left to live before everything is gone, everybody you know is gone, what would you do? For this one, it has sort of some unfathomable cosmic entities from the void hurtling towards Earth. Pretty cool story. I believe this is the last story in the collection, Scarlet. It's a bit of true crime mixed with some new supernatural elements. There's a haunted painting, a serial killer, and a mother who is looking to put the tragic past year behind her. Really cool story, way to cap off the collection. Perpetual Dread by Brian Bowyer. It's a bleak, 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 bleak collection of stories. No, YouTube didn't just freeze up, spaz out on you. That's how bleak this collection truly is. It's a bloody, grim, filthy, grindhouse style of storytelling. The good guys, they don't come out victorious here, if there were even any good guys to be found in the first place. There's no saving the damsel in distress. There's no riding off into the sunset at the end of the movie. If there are good guys here, what happens to them? They get their brains blown out across the pavement without a second thought. And the bad guys, they die a horrible death not very long afterwards. I really enjoy this collection. If you are into extreme stories, extreme horror, this is definitely one you want to pick up. Brian Bowyer, he does extreme extremely well. I gave this collection 4 stars. It was a lot of fun. Bowyer, he's quick, brutal, to the point, cutthroat. He doesn't mess around with any frills or filler. Straight to the point, just nasty, brutal, extreme storytelling. This might have been my 4-star review, Perpetual Dread by Brian Bowyer, a collection of short stories. That's all I have for you guys today, so thank you for spending your time with me. Again, my name is Brad, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.